I don't know if I'll even be able to post this because my phone's data connection seems to be slower than freaking 28.8 kbps modem or something. Like old dial up. I remember, I remember connecting to things faster on a computer, Windows 95, back with dial up and shit sometimes, man. But, anyways, I wanted to talk about my issues with psychiatry and things like that, or my concerns about it. Because, I'll be honest, I really thought about and had a feeling like I need to get some kind of help or something, honestly. But at the same time, I feel like all right, here's my thoughts on things. I look at the way the world is, and it makes me think of this quote by, Vidya Krishnamurti or whatever. He says, it is no great measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. I look at this world and I see that it seems to me that almost everything about this place is screwed up. Whereas psychiatry would seek to convince you that everything is perfectly fine and dandy the way it is, and seek to invalidate any experiences that you had that are outside the norm, to label you as crazy for having experiences or thoughts that don't conform to societal norms. But how is that crazy when look at what societal norm is. It's going out and selling yourself, selling your life away for slips of paper, endless struggle just to survive, just to have any shelter or any sort of connection with another human being. It's just, this place is screwed up on so many levels. There's a million examples of how things are screwed up. God, there's so many things, man. Like the fact that people don't even notice the sort of things that aren't bothered by the things. It just seems insane to me. People are struggling. We live in a country where there are millions and millions of homeless people living either rough on the streets or in their cars. Try to find a single parking lot where there's not multiple homeless people sleeping in their car in the parking lot. Anywhere. I dare you. And yet people just go on about their day. And as a whole, the civilization doesn't seem to give a single freaking damn that they've created such a society that's so unfair and unjust. And to notice such a thing is considered to be some sort of a mental illness. Or if you have any sort of experiences that people would consider supernatural or something, right? Within the diagnostics service manual, the DSM, wouldn't you be considered some sort of insane for believing in God or believing in angels or believing in ghosts, demons, etc., etc.? Wouldn't that be considered some sort of right? Or aliens or whatever, right? But what if that stuff is real? Then the diagnostic service manual is just invalidating real experiences and labeling you as crazy for believing in something that's actually real, for having experiences with something that's actually real. So how is that helping anyone to invalidate experiences like real experiences? You know what I mean? There's a number of psychiatrists that have written papers and talked about their work with schizophrenics and that they came to believe, based on experiments they did with various schizophrenics, that in many cases the voices people were hearing were genuine and real, that they couldn't disprove, because these people knew things that they couldn't possibly have known unless there really was some sort of, invisible entity speaking to them, relaying information, on some sort of a, psychic level, right? I mean, what about psychic abilities? That would be considered insane, right? And yet, if it's so insane, then why is our own, why have the governments of the world experimented with it and used it, You know what I'm saying? I mean, all of human history has been laden with people doing, shamanic practices, having psychic abilities, these sorts of things being used by the powers that be throughout all of freaking history, basically, and spiritualism and all that. And yet, all of these things would be considered some sort of mental illness to if you speak of any experience or belief in them. So how is that helping anyone? Right? I'm just gonna put this out there as just a wild example of how psychiatry doesn't seem like doesn't seem like it would be helpful. I mean, right? Let's say, for instance, let's say for argument's sake that aliens or something were real, and that there was a person that had been getting abducted by aliens and experimented on since childhood or something, right? Let's say this person even has photographic evidence of UFOs pulling up over their house and so on, can describe in great detail the inside of the spacecraft and the type of aliens and the sort of experiments, and show you scars that they have and so on and so forth, right? And yet, if he goes to a psychiatrist and tells them about it, it's going to be treated as a mental illness, or a person living in a haunted house or something with a poltergeist, flinging things across the walls in their house, right? Do they need to go to a psychiatrist to be told that they're hallucinating, that they have psychotic episodes or schizophrenia because they're experiencing something? Or do they, who are you going to call? Psychiatrists or the freaking Ghostbusters, right? I'm just saying. So that's my issue with psychiatry, in the same way that I also have an issue with so-called addiction medicine as well. I got a problem drinking, but at the same time, I look at the main, ultimately praised type of, the 12-step programs and that sort of addiction counseling and things like that. I look at it as being, I mean, is it or is it not something that's known to have essentially something along the lines of a 98% rate of failure, and yet somehow it's touted as the end-all be-all, cure-all for such a condition? I mean, it's insane. How have we as a society, as a species, dealt with such serious problems for what, hundreds of years, for centuries, and not managed to come to a place in our society where we have actual, valid, functional solutions for such issues. It's like an analogy I've made of an elephant in the room. It's like the whole solution that's presented to us for the elephant in the room is to pretend as though it doesn't exist. But in the meantime, the dogs and the cats are a red stain on the carpet. The baby's crawling towards the elephant. The elephant's knocking over the chandeliers, stomping holes in your floor, knocking holes in the walls. And the psychiatrist and the addiction counselor just says, there is no elephant. You just have to realize there is no elephant, right? How is that a solution to anything? If the elephant is real, then the elephant needs to be dealt with, you know? Or maybe the next red stain on the carpet will be you or the baby or something. You know what I'm saying? It's just. So, how are you supposed to find legitimate help? I feel like in this society that we live in, we're surrounded by so many different types of things that present themselves to be the end all be all solution, the help for the problems that you have, what that in reality are inefficient and unrealistic and not really truly helpfulness, to the degree that they should be anyways, and not even close, because they don't actually. I mean, the solution seems to be to put perfume on the pig instead of to say, look, it's a pig. you know, the solution is to pretend that the elephant doesn't exist, and that's the solution that's presented to us, instead of saying, hey, there's a fucking elephant in the room, maybe we should do something about it. That's that's kind of how I see it. I mean, the government comes out and the news and everything comes out right out in the open talking about freaking space aliens and UFOs. But if you go to a psychiatrist and tell them you saw a UFO or that you were abducted by aliens, they'll treat you as though you have a mental disorder, instead of trying to offer up solutions to help you, cope with what it is you're dealing with. As though it's a real thing, they treat it as a mental disorder. You could have photographic evidence, you could have scars, you could dig some sort of, electronic chip out from under your skin and place it on the table in front of them, and they'll still treat it as though it's a mental illness, a delusion. So how is that helpful? How is that actually help? And the abundance of this fake help leaves an absence of true help, because the people out there that maybe would be in a position to be able to offer true help are satiated by their ignorance, and by looking around and seeing all these people that say, look, we're super helpful. So they're like, oh, look, there's all these people helping people, so I don't need to do anything. You know? No one seems to be seeking real solutions for the problems that we have in the world because we're presented with all these false solutions that don't help anyone. Or what if you're truly a targeted individual? What if you really are experiencing something in life as though you're in a Truman Show? That would just be called a delusion. You go to a psychiatrist, and what are they going to do? Are they going to help you, or are they going to gaslight you? You know, are they helping solve your problem, or are they making it worse? That's you know, if you have real, genuine, valid problems and valid concerns, then how does it help to invalidate them? Pretend as though they're not real. How is that solving anything? And if you have a leaky pipe under your sink, do you want to hire a plumber that's going to come over and say, there is no leak, everything is fine? I think you must just be imagining things, right? Or do you want someone that's going to, replace the pipe or seal the leak? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if your electricity goes out, you're going to hire an electrician or somebody that's going to come over and get the power turned back on? Or are you going to hire somebody that's going to come over and say, I think you're just imagining things. Your electricity is fine. You know? How is that a solution? How is that solving anything? So that's my issue with psychiatry and with just all the things that offer themselves up as solutions to serious issues. It seems like we're surrounded by a lot of help that isn't really help, like a lot of unhelpful help, a lot of almost, you say, detrimental false help that stops any real help from ever occurring. That's what I see it. That's the way I see it. I mean, it seems to me that the job of a psychiatrist or addiction counselor in the modern world, and the way that it's being done today, is to attempt to make you well adjusted to a profoundly sick society, to invalidate your experiences and convince you that you're imagining things that may very well be real, So how is that helping? So then where is their help, I say pray, ask God, I mean, you got the spiritual thing too that also seems to be kind of similar in that regard. It's like what if God doesn't help you? What if God doesn't feel like helping you, or whatever, right? Then how does it help to say, hey, just pray to God and What if he's not even there, for that matter, you know? Or say he is. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he doesn't feel like it. You know, it seems to me that whether you look at, you know, this, I mean, whatever, it seems to me that almost every type of help that's out there is like a false help. It's like a sort of a false, it's like based on a false hope or on a false sort of a help that stops any real help from being pursued. It's all about invalidating your issue, convincing you that there is no problem when there is one. You know? So what are you supposed to do with that? There's so many things in this world that I see as being completely atrocious and horrible. I mean, I feel like this place is like a sewer or something, like just like a bog of eternal stench. I feel like, you know, I don't know, it's from it's that movie Labyrinth or whatever. I feel as though I've fallen into the bog of eternal stench, and even if I was able to get out of this place, I could never get the smell off of my skin, you know? It just, such a corrupt place that the corruption and the filth of this place just seeps into you, and you yourself become corrupted by it, you know? I mean, there's so many things in this world that are so messed up, man. I mean, if you go to a minister, whether you go to a minister or a psychiatrist or whatever, if you bring up uh, the obscene levels of violence in the world, the wars where millions of people are engaged in genocide and murder, any one of them will try to validate this as though it's legitimate and perfectly good in some sort of way, right? And you point out that prices are obscene and that millions of people are left without, you know, without sufficient help to suffer and live on the street in this society, and people walk right past and don't even seem to care because the problem is so huge that even if they do care, you walk past because you feel that you can't do anything about it. And we live in this society, and but they would try to validate this as though there's something as though there's nothing wrong with this situation, you know, as though that's just the way it is, and we're supposed to accept it, and we're supposed to ignore it or pretend that it's not a problem. Why are there no real solutions being offered? Why are there no people, like, does there not seem to be anyone seeking real solutions to replace the fake ones that we have now? I mean, I don't know. I see, when I look at psychiatry and addiction counseling and religion and all of it, what I see is I see a world that seems to be caught in this sort of how do you say, apathetic sort of Deus ex machina cult like mentality that people don't seek to find solutions to the problems in the world because we're waiting for some Superman, some all powerful man in the sky or something to come down and rescue us. And in the meantime, chosen through all of these things to try to just invalidate our observations of real things that are causing us all sorts of problems. And our solution seems to be to seek to ignore these problems and to pretend as though they don't exist. I don't know. I talk about this because I think about it all the time. I think about trying to go to just go talk to just I feel like I want to talk to a psychiatrist. I want to talk to go to some sort of treatment, rehab, or something to try to deal with my alcoholism. But I feel like it would. I almost. I have this big part of me that feels like it would just be pointless. That feels that I have very serious doubts that they would offer up any genuine solutions. You know, it's all just like coping mechanisms to try to ignore the fucking problem. It's like like take the plumber analogy again. It's like if you got a pipe under your sink and it's you got a steady, it's going drip, 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 and it's flooding under your sink and stuff, and you call up a plumber, and the plumber comes over, and he says, I don't know, if he doesn't just completely invalidate it and say, I think you're imagining things, then he says, here, take 2 of these pills, and it'll help you to not notice the dripping, or try to focus on this, maybe if you turn on a fan and you just try to listen to the sound of the fan, of the wind blowing through the room, then you won't even notice the drip anymore. And then there's no more problem, right? What you want is somebody to, replace the pipe or stop the leak, right? But that's just not an option. That's not something that's being offered, It's just, so how do you get real help in this world, Is there any genuine care left in this world? In any sort of expansive way, is there any real genuine care left in this world? I know that there is, but it's like the false help, the false care, the thing that pretends to help, pretends to be trying to help, and that pretends to care in order to fill their pockets with your money or whatever, is so huge and so pervasive, and it's everywhere, and it's has seemingly limitless funding and limitless resources to perpetuate their model, and the people that are out there really trying to help are impoverished and destitute, and they don't have any real backing, real ability to do to try to bring about the sort of real solutions that would actually help people. I mean, I'd say a large portion of, like, for instance, the homeless situation, the people that are really out there genuinely trying to help the homeless and doing the most to actually try to help the homeless, many of them are homeless themselves or living in their cars or something, because they don't really have the resources to help people much more than to bring them blankets or bring them get them or help them get a box of food or something. It's about all they can do. They can offer you a bowl of soup or something, but they can't get you a home. They can't, because the people that have the sort of authority and financial ability and political clout to be able to actually get people homes don't care. They just pretend to care. And they offer up their false solutions endlessly. And they're promoted, with backed by billions or trillions of dollars and resources, and they're in every town, in every city, in every state, all across the country and all over the world. These fake helpers are out there providing the illusion of help that prevents the real helpers from being able to provide real solutions, because all of the money and power and authority is in the hands of people who don't really truly care. That's how it seems to me, honestly. I started trying to get along in this society the way it is, just trying to go out and do what the other people do, do what the whole world tells you you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go out and you're supposed to dedicate any physically or mentally capable years of your life are supposed to be dedicated to the pursuit of money so that you can just to survive, right? But it's like the whole thing seems so ridiculous to me, because it seems to me that, like, how do I explain, like, the tragedy of the modern world as I see it, right? Well, imagine for a moment if you were to I was gonna say, I guess I'll use this. I don't know if this is the best analogy, but let's say, what if Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla and Aristotle and Plato and, so on and so forth were just poof, just brought back to life, reincarnated with all their memories and knowledge and so on intact here in the modern world, where they had no money, no resources, and were put into a position where they had to sweep floors at Burger King to try to just survive, to try to have shelter and food. I mean, it seems to me there could be so many people in this world that have some sort of great potential There could be millions, hundreds of millions even of people in this modern world that in another age, in another time period in this world could have been something like Mozart or Einstein or Nikola Tesla or so on and so forth. And they're out there all over the country, all over the world, these people like that. But they'll probably never amount to anything because they're too busy struggling to survive to be able to accomplish anything other than saying, "Would you like fries with that?" Basically. Or they're on the side of a highway somewhere, living under an overpass, holding up a freaking cardboard sign that the end is near or something. It's just, I feel like we're living in one of the most tragic times in the history of the entire world. Like, if not the most tragic time in the history of the entire world. The level of poverty, the level of inflation, we find basically all of humanity essentially locked into a sort of a slave system, different, class of slave system. We have a world where basically the governments are like this giant tyrannical monster that robs and drains the lifeblood out of every country in the world, out of their entire population. And these bankers and these politicians get fat and live in their mansions, and in the same way that a tick gets fat by sucking the blood out of its host, you know? They break your legs and then say, "Look how helpful I am. Here, have a crutch. That'll be $200. Thank you. Come again." You know? And then they say, "Look, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be able to walk. See how helpful I am?" Right? That's basically, everyone says, "Yes. Thank God you helped me." It's just, and it's like we're living in a time where we're coming up in a time, or we're basically already there, where people are being kept busy with menial jobs, too busy to have time to think or to notice what's even going on in the world. And but the thing is, we're living in an age where human beings and the labor force and so on are essentially, coming up on a time, or pretty much already there, really, to a point where a human labor force is obsolete with the existence of robotics and artificial intelligence. Basically the entire structure of our society, like, we need to be, people should be trying to think of real solutions, but everyone's, "Oh, just get a job, work the American dream, just get a job." we're our civilization, the future for everyone's children and children's children is being flushed down the toilet, and people are too busy chasing paper to care or to even notice that it's happening. It's like people don't even notice or care that when you go into a grocery store, there may be only one or two checkout lines out of 10 that are open, and everything is self checkout where it's a computer now. There go all those jobs, and they could be all. I mean, they what's this? I mean, or you go into a store now where 20 or 30 years ago there would have been 10 or 15 or 20 employees in there, and now there's only one person or two people running the entire store. Things are breaking down. You know, you go to a gas station, people, you pump your own gas. What's to stop them from getting rid of all the gas station attendants? What's to stop them from getting rid of the employees at the store when there's robots stocking the shelves and computers for self checkout when you go to check out at the store? You go into a McDonald's nowadays, there's, you know, maybe half a dozen people making the food. What's to stop from being replaced by fucking robot arms or something, you know? Delivery drivers, truck drivers, airline pilots. There's robots that can perform open heart surgery, for fuck's sake. I mean, we're obsolete, man. There's robots. There's artificial intelligence news broadcasters. Column writers. They can write a artificial intelligence could write a book or a movie script like that. You know, and create the graphics that can actors even obsolete, like all of it. It's all where humanity is being phased out. And the world is becoming so artificial and false in every fucking sense. But we're being kept too freaking busy to even notice. I wish I could remember more details about this particular story, but I remember watching this, it's like a YouTube video where it was an interview with some guy that's, I don't know, he's worth, I don't know, hundreds of millions or $1 billion or something. You know, uh, this guy gets brought in to this company that's failing, and he gets hired to try to, figure out what's wrong with the company and why the company is losing so much money. And he does his research and he looks into it and he finds out that the reason they're losing so much money is, like, we're talking like a company with a big high-rise building where the entire big high-rise building is filled with employees. And what he found out was that basically like 99% of the people working there were just doing useless, trivial shit. And the reason the company's losing money is because they've got all these people working for them that are just that have no purpose for being there, and that just make everything ridiculously inefficient, It had 5,000 people doing a job that two people could do, basically. But that's the way the whole fucking society is structured, essentially. It's the way all the corporate structure all over the world is. People are fucking obsolete. And the only reason that all these jobs even exist to begin with is because it's not because we have some, government or the corporations that care about the population. It's because they've got to keep us busy and distracted and keep us from revolting and rising up and noticing that something is very wrong here and that something needs to be done about it. I don't know who you are. If you're I'm just saying, like, the vast majority of jobs are the human being in the majority of jobs is obsolete and completely unnecessary, basically. And the only reason so many of these jobs exist is just to keep people busy and to, I mean, some of them just exist so that a certain class of people is able to make money off of the backs of everybody else. The government employees, the lobbyists, the all these people that politicians, so on and so forth. They get these cush jobs where they make a ton of money for doing things that don't need to be done in the first place. It's just a complete waste of money and time. That's just being. It's like a parasite sucking the blood out of the fucking country and sucking the blood out of the people, basically. But a lot of the other jobs, that exist are just, they only even still exist to keep people busy so they don't notice how screwed up things are. But you can see that things are being phased out. Why do you think why do you think everybody's struggling? Why do you think there's so many people homeless on the streets? Why do you think there's so many, there's people with master's degrees and multiple jobs that are living in their cars, man? There's nurses living in their cars. There's freaking school teachers living in their cars. There's people with master's degree in engineering and PhD, people with multiple PhDs living under a fucking bridge and shit. There are. I mean, that's the society we're living in now. It's I mean, you can see that people are being phased out. But people have been like made to believe that this is just a case of people not wanting to work or something, but that's not true. Like when you walk into a restaurant, for instance, right? You notice nowadays you might walk into Pizza Hut or Little Caesars or see, I know this because I've been doing DoorDash, so I've observed this. Like in the past 20 or 30 years ago, you go to McDonald's or something or whatever. McDonald's has still got a lot, people working for them. But I'm just saying, like, just using it as an example. In the past, you'd go there and there would be maybe, you know, 6, 8, 10 people or something behind the counter. Big, huge kitchen area with a ton of people working. Twice as many people working back there. And now you might go to a restaurant and walk up to the counter and you might have to wait 5 minutes before somebody comes out from the back that even notices that you're there before you're able to order food. People are being phased out of jobs. I mean, and the jobs that do exist are just like a pittance to keep people busy and distracted so they don't notice how badly we're being screwed. And the older generations don't notice how badly everybody's being screwed because they got theirs, you know. And there's always a number of outliers that I don't know. It's just we have some serious freaking problems in this world, and on an individual basis, I mean, a lot of people have serious emotional, psychological spiritual traumas and issues in their life. But what I was pointing out with psychiatry and so on, I see it being the same, like, in regards to pretty much everything in this world. We have, like, false solutions presented for real problems that aren't going away. They're just getting worse and worse. It's like the modern solution to the building being on fire is to convince yourself that it's not really on fire and everything is fine. Or the fireman shows up and he says, "Oh, but look how pretty the flames are. Isn't it nice how warm they'll keep you?" Or whatever, right? It's just, we've got this, like, one of the biggest things I see in the society as an issue is this, I'd call it toxic positivity. This desire that everyone has, and this promotion of the idea that we should just think happy thoughts about serious problems in the world and that they're just going to magically go away. It's like, oh, the boogeyman is over your bed. Here's the solution. You pull the blanket over your head and hope the boogeyman goes away. Well, that doesn't work if the boogeyman is real. It only works maybe if you're imagining things, right? But if you're not imagining things, if there really is a problem, then you don't need to pull a blanket over your head. You need to grab a baseball bat or something. You know what I'm saying? Things are messed up in the world. I don't know if I'll be able to even freaking upload this. Made it too long. I guess I should stop talking now.